It's that time again. Time to make yourself a cup of tea, coffee, or maybe plug the earphones in and go for a walk. This is episode 7, and today I wanted to talk to you about anger. Anger management, and how I used to be so bloody angry all the time. Not that I am like a saint now that never gets angry, but I used to be and get so angry easily. There's this quote, surprising. There's this quote where it's something along the line with, it's funny how people think that yoga people are supposed to be so calm. It's like, no, we're all here because we're nuts. Or said differently in my case, it's so funny for me, and maybe also for the people who've known me for a bit longer, when newer people getting to know me, get so surprised that I have such a temper. And when I tell them about my anger issues and that this is the reason why I kind of started, or why yoga hooked me. It wasn't the reason why I started with yoga. That can be actually for another episode maybe. But yeah, how yoga helped me handle my anger, or how yoga maybe showed or gave me another way to deal with my anger. That has definitely been one of the reasons why yoga stuck with me. So I said, yeah, for me it is hilarious and funny. Well, that's the same thing, hilarious and funny. But anyways, when people get so surprised, and they look genuinely surprised, when I say, well, I get angry so easily, or like, I have this temper, or I can shout and blah, blah, blah. And people just look at me, some of you who might be listening to this, like, what? Angry? She? No. And yes, let me tell you that anger and being angry was a big part of my life up to just a few years ago. My former partner can definitely vouch for this, and his family and my family and my friends who have known me that long. Oh my God, I used to be angry and get angry for small things, but that were big things in my world. So a few examples that could like drive me insane. I love playing board games or playing cards, but I hate people not playing by the rules. I am not a fan of changing the rules when you started playing, adapting the rules. I am definitely not a fan of adapting the rules just because there's kids playing with the grown-ups. I hate it when people don't know the rules, or more importantly, when people don't seem to care about the rules. Oh my God, that could drive me insane. It's still a bit of an issue. I like rules, but I remember as that making life miserable for myself and for everyone who was potentially playing with me. Because, yes, me kind of fucking up the entire evening, going into this tantrum of people not following the rules. Now, in hindsight, I think it's kind of coming from my upbringing with my dad being very clear and strict on rules when we were playing any kind of board game or cards or so on. And it was very clear. And there was very few exceptions for me, just because I happened to be a kid. So I think it kind of comes from there, but still, this was one of the things I used to get so angry about. I used to get very, 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 very angry for, when cooking, and oh my God, it's so weird even talking about it and having to admit, even voluntarily admitting this. But anyways, when I know in the beginning, like, the partner was cooking, and it was his responsibility for preparing the food, and he started, like, oh my God, cleaning the mushrooms in a different way than I used to do it. I could get, like, bonkers. I'm not completely sure what was wrong with me, but still, I really liked getting things done my way. My way or the highway was very much an expression I lived by in my core and soul. And it used to drive me insane when people were doing it in a different way than my way. And sure, this tendency is still a bit there, but I am trying more often to turn it into a curiosity kind of a thing. Instead of like, what? You're not doing it my way? This is how you should be doing it. This is the best way. Instead, how interesting. You are doing it in a different way than I am, or I'm doing it in a different way than you are. How come you're doing it this way, or how is this how you've been taught? Or okay, all of these questions, to be honest, quite often drives my husband a bit insane. But for me, it's a huge difference because it's coming from a place of curiosity. I am curious on the different ways of doing various things. Even such a simple thing as cleaning and cutting mushrooms. So this used to drive me insane. And oh my Lord, I do not consider myself a very gentle or easygoing or having no temper at all. I can still snap super easily and get super angry for fairly small things. But the huge difference for me, is more often I manage to stop it before it happens. I manage to change the story in my head around the situation. And this is a huge step for me. I know that we're all different, and I will most likely always be a bit fiery and having shorter, perhaps, fuse than a few other people. And I might be one of those people who just needs to sort of get a bit of anger going and some frustration out by perhaps screaming or like so. But as said, nowadays there's a huge difference with it. And partly, of course, it's down to age, getting a bit older, a bit wiser. But I also think that yoga has something to do with it. That yoga helps me calm the fuck down. Yoga has helped me to come to the realization that there can be a different reality than mine. And that, sure, in my head, my way might be the most logic, but it's kind of the same for the other person. So just trying to realize that there's always different stories, there's always different versions to whatever it might be, and that my version doesn't always have to be the only truth. That was a huge insight for me when kind of getting to that a few years ago, and it's still a progress. Oh my god, I still snap, definitely, but it comes a lot less often. And what's also interesting for me is that the irritation, the anger doesn't linger as long as it used to. I could be angry and stay in that angry zone for a long time. I said, I still have these moments where I want to snap, where I want to punch people in the face. Yes, I have that feeling coming. Or where I want to show them a few gestures, which are perhaps not very nice. But I try to think before I act nowadays, but also I try to, as said, change the story. So instead of, like I used to think and feel, that people were out there to annoy me, or people pissed me off on purpose, now I don't think that as much anymore. Now I think that we all are doing the best that we can, and that's a huge difference in terms of mindset. So even if I have those moments when it's like about to snap or so, I pause. I take a step, at least mentally, back, and I think, okay, most likely this person was not out to get me. Maybe this person was late for an appointment and didn't really see that I was coming on the bike when they were cutting me off, annoying me like crazy. Or maybe the people didn't see that there was a queue here, and me informing them it's just a good way to get their attention to it, and then they go and place themselves in the queue instead of like being quiet, standing there and getting super annoyed with the person who just cut in front of me in the line. So I find it extremely funny when people, a lot of you students, get surprised with me when I'm telling that I used to get so angry. Because nowadays it's happening so much less often. And I'm so very grateful to yoga kind of giving that to me, or that I have been able to find this through yoga. I'm curious, why did you start with yoga? Or has yoga helped transform you in any kind of similar way? Feel free to leave me a comment. It would be so interesting to read your comments. Otherwise, thanks for listening and maybe laughing with me.